Hello.
Hello.
You look like something's dangling from your ear.
Oh, it is.
I never noticed it before. You can have it dangling. I understand why you do.
I'm just confirming that there's sound on all the platforms.
Yes, there is.
So if you have sound, it's because I confirmed.
Hello, guys. So today's video is talking about comments that I got on my video that I put out. Was it what's today? Wednesday? Was it last Saturday? I think. I can't remember. Or Monday. Wow. Some people were very upset. So we're just going to get into it. The first one is.
You were very upset about what?
If you guys have comments or questions, please go ahead and leave them. The first one is, I have noticed, this one wasn't upset. This was just an inquiry. I have noticed throughout the videos, you all seem to move to very desolate areas, yet some are far from work for Michael, like Idaho, for example. What made you decide on the areas that you picked? I thought for work, but it does not seem to be the case. It was not the case. We have never, ever moved for work, really. I mean, for one, he kind of had a job opportunity in Idaho when we moved there.
In theory, I had a job when we left.
Theory.
And when we got there, the job was actually in Washington across the border.
But that's not why we moved there.
But when we got there, the guy changed the plan.
Yeah. So the question is, why did we move to all these rural areas that we picked? So we had lived in Texas before we moved to Idaho for 6 months because Mike wanted to go back there to see if he could get a job in film and television. This was before YouTube. This was before the internet. This was before any of that.
And well, and up to this point, I was only just a few years out of college. We had been working, both of us had been working in tourism when we met.
Mm-hmm.
And that's more like working retail type jobs, that sort of thing.
Yeah. And so we moved to Texas so that he could hopefully find a job in film and television there because his degree is in film and television and he's a video editor and producer. So we moved to Texas and we were there 6 months and I was literally flat on the couch the entire time. I could garden for my little patio garden, which was what, maybe 2 by 3 feet.
It was a tiny
garden.
There's a room for like one lawn chair in there.
Yeah, and I went all the way up as high as I could go and all of that. But I was flat in our $5 recliner. We had a $5 recliner and another $5 chair and our $10 TV. And that's all I would sit in all day and all night because I was so sick from the heat and humidity. So after that, we were like, we have got to move somewhere where it is not so hot and not so humid. Had a cousin my second cousin lives in Idaho. And I remember at somebody's funeral, I don't remember, he said, oh, we just absolutely love it in Idaho. And we couldn't really move back from Colorado. Before we moved to Texas, we were living in Colorado. And we couldn't move back to Colorado because we were having in-law problems and didn't want to get back in that. All the Californians had moved into Colorado, so we couldn't afford, we thought, to live there. Although, looking back, it probably would have been better if we would have just stayed because we would have been multimillionaires by that point. But
just getting into a place was really hard.
Yeah.
And when we were in Colorado before we went back down to Texas, we went to Texas because I had gone to the university there and I knew people and I had done stuff for no pay. And I thought I could go down and reconnect with them and do stuff. But it turned out most of them had moved on to other places. But Colorado, we had been finding people who had places that had something wrong with them and redoing that in order to be able to afford the rent.
Yeah.
So like doing some work for rent plus rent money. And so that's why we were thinking, yeah, that's not going to be sustainable for a long term.
Yeah. So we moved to Idaho thinking that Mike had a job he thought lined up at a bank. We get there and it ends up being a sales position, and they basically wanted him to rip little old ladies off out of their retirement and their houses and all this and sell reverse mortgages and all this stuff. And so He was like, yeah, I'm not going to be ripping little old ladies off. So then he decided to go work at the county as an appraiser because he was a real estate appraiser also before that, working with his dad as a real estate appraiser. And so that's how we ended up in Idaho. And we specifically went for, we wanted to live in a small town. We wanted to live where it was cooler and dry, cool and dry, not like Michigan or Wisconsin or Pennsylvania where it's cooler and humid. And so Idaho seemed like it was really a good place. Now, we actually loved Idaho. We really loved Idaho. It was great. But, you know, we quickly realized after I got pregnant, that earning $6 an hour for him, and this will lead into my next question, of me being on disability for $300 a month, wasn't going to get us anywhere financially.
Although when you got pregnant, I was already at the university, so we were making a lot more than that at that point. But
we were realizing that's not going to work.
Yeah.
So let's see. We lived in Idaho for 3 years, and then we tried to move closer. Mike was commuting 100 miles each way to work. He ended up getting an apartment up there, sharing an apartment with a roommate with a guy in this really absolute awful hovel. I mean, it was just a hovel. It was in the basement. It was a dungeon. The lady was a hoarder. He literally had concrete walls all around him, one little light. It was absolutely awful.
But it made it possible for me to do a job that paid a lot more than I had been doing before. But there was a lot of tension because we couldn't really buy a house in that area because they were the university was the only employer that would pay that much. So we were a little concerned that if that job didn't last, we'd be stuck with a mortgage that we couldn't pay.
So then what happened was he kept getting laid off from his job because it was union, and they would give the union workers, even though they weren't qualified, they would give the union workers the position instead of Mike. So Mike could never really get a permanent position. He kept getting laid off.
And then they would create a new position to hire me because I was the only one that knew how to do the work.
Yeah. So on the day that I found out I was pregnant with our first, he got laid off, it was like 2 or 3 days later. It wasn't very long, because I announced my pregnancy to him. I got him a little Colorado Rockies t-shirt and put it in his lunch. It was so cute. And so anyway, he got laid off then from his job. Well, so anyway, then we ended up moving back to Kansas later. That's a whole nother story. But yeah.
But we did also.
That's why we ended up in Idaho, and one of the reasons why we lived in such remote places, because I like smaller towns. I don't like living in Denver at all.
Yeah, we had left Denver, well, not Denver, but near Denver, to go to Texas. And when Texas didn't work out, we thought, man, Colorado's so crazy. We don't really want to go back there. But I was working a job down in Texas, and a guy I was working with said, have you ever thought about Idaho? It's like Colorado with a lot less people. And so in those days, the internet was brand new. There were no pictures from Idaho on the internet that we could find.
I mean, literally, when I was sitting in the recliner, I still have it in my mind today, watching the TV, and I was watching the news, and the lady said, yeah, you're going to be able to be cooking at your stove with your computer and ordering airplane tickets at the same time while you're looking at the recipe on your computer through this new thing called the internet. And I was like, oh yeah, right. That's really stupid. Why would I ever get a recipe off the internet? What is the internet? How in the world am I going to work that? That's just ridiculous. I remember thinking that, and now our whole business is recipe related on the internet.
Yeah, and I had been a computer geek since I was 12. And I remember thinking, yeah, I don't think this is going to be like that because most people don't have the patience to do all this stuff. Boy, was I wrong. Although I was thinking of it in the way that it was at the time. So yeah. There is another thing about Idaho, though. We just decided it's too crazy there. What else can we do? And where can we go where it's not so expensive to live? So when the guy that I talked to said, hey, you should try Idaho, then we found out that Tara had family in Idaho. So then we contacted them. And they said, oh, it'd be great to have.
Well, I mean, I already knew Jim lived in Idaho and already talked to him. It was at grandma's sister's funeral. He was saying how much they loved it there.
Well, then I ended up looking around and I found a job there. So then we're like, okay, we're good to go. Now we can go. And that's when, we got there and the job didn't work out. But that's how we ended up there. And we were always looking for a place that was less crazy, less chaotic. And it was wonderful for a while living there. It's just financially, it wasn't really a reality for the long term.
No. So we ended up having to move out of there. We ended up going back to Kansas because that was when my brother got paralyzed from his root canal and had just torn all his walls down in his house. So we moved 2.5 hours away from him to go back to try and help him get his house put together because he couldn't even lift a pencil, let alone swing a hammer. So after Idaho, we did end up moving there. But yeah, we like small towns. I don't like living in the city. I've never been interested in art or culture or any of that baloney.
That would be me.
Sorry. And so I never really liked any of that stuff. And so, yeah. The next one is, now this is where everyone was getting their knickers all in a knot. Ember Dog of Fire says, why do you never mention you were also getting disability when Mike was making only $9 an hour? And then Donna says, I thought I was the only one that was thinking about that with the disability check. And then Ember Dog says, yeah, she never mentions that. Like, I'm not trying to be mean, but she's excluding some income that was coming in, making it sound like they had less money than they actually did. Even if it wasn't a lot of money, I'm sure it brought at least the groceries or paid for a bill or two. I don't think people realize unless they have been watching for a while. And Megan says, and also living on a dime. Okay, so
living on a dime didn't pay anything.
These people think they just have caught me lying. No, it's not. So, first of all, living on a dime did not make any money at all until 8 years into the business. That was our first profit, was 8 years into the business. Everything else went to go pay for our business expenses. Printing books, the internet, mailing costs for free review copies, all of that. We didn't earn a dime. And our first check was for $25,000. And that was 8 years worth of work. For 3, basically, 2.5, sort of. So, basically 2.5. So, I mean, we literally made like 50 cents an hour. It was ludicrous. So people always act like I'm hiding something. No, I'm not hiding something. When I say Mike was making $9 an hour, we were bringing home about $1,200 between his $900 or between his $9 an hour job and my $300 a month disability. So what I always say is we were living on $1,200 a month. I just add it all together because our finances are together. We're married. Our finances are together, except for all my Facebook money that I'm hoarding right now. But Michael commanded me that I have to hand it over to him before the show.
Actually, she keeps saying, can I buy this with my garage sale money or whatever? And I'm thinking, you don't have to use your garage sale money for that.
It's just a fun thing. So I'm getting rid of all this stuff on Marketplace right now. And I've already made like $2,000. It's crazy. Anyway, so I was on disability. I got on disability when I was 19, $300 a month. I've been trying to get off disability the whole time. I started living on a dime and they wouldn't let me. So where the catch is, first of all, I can't work full time doing a job. It's just not possible. In case you guys haven't noticed, my videos have gone way down. I'm not making near as many videos. I just can't physically do it. So,
she has times where she does more and times where she does less, just depending on how she's feeling.
Yeah. So as I'm feeling better, I'll do more. But as I'm not feeling better, I won't do more. But I got $300 a month. Yeah, that paid for our groceries, which was $125 a month, and maybe our electric bill during that whole time, maybe our electric and gas bill. But okay, that's fine. I mean, yeah, it did pay for those. I'm not going to say it didn't, but big whoop-de-ding. I mean, it's not even really worth it. And so
it still was a very low amount of money in those days.
And so now, because of the income from the business, I don't hardly get anything at all. So for all those of you wondering, the catch is I'm an owner of this business, but I'm not an employee of this business. So I don't get a W-2 or anything like that. So they won't let me off. I've been around and around. I did a whole video on this like 5 years ago. If you guys want to go watch it, you can. And so that's the whole thing. There's nothing I'm hiding. It's no big deal. Angie says, I may be mistaken, but I thought your children purchased a home for you a few years ago. No.
I think there must be some confusion because
you must be thinking about somebody else.
Well, 4 years ago, we bought a house, and then Tara's mom bought a house 3 months later.
Yeah.
And for a few months while she was looking for a house, she lived in our house.
Yeah.
But she paid for her house and we paid for our house, so nobody paid for anybody else's house.
The only money I've ever received for help with our house was Mike's parents, when we first bought our house in Idaho, gave us $500 for
something to do with it.
To down payment on the house.
Yeah.
In Idaho. And then one time his parents gave us a car, which was a huge lemon. They paid $3,000 for it, and we ended up putting in $5,000 for it because the engine and the transmission all went out within the first 3 months of having it. But that's all the financial help that we've had from our parents ever. Mom did, with the exception of Mom got some insurance money from a car accident that we had, and she got me I can't remember if it's $3,000 or $5,000 car from that pain and suffering from an accident. And that's all the help we've had. Otherwise, Mike and I have paid all of our bills ourselves.
And she bought you that car before I met you. You were still a teenager, weren't you?
Well, yeah, I was 19, but yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
So anyway, that's all. You can send me the comments and questions. If you guys have comments and questions, post them in there. I'm not hiding anything. People act like, oh, she's covering up something. Oh, he's covering up something. No, we've worked our darn tootin' butts off this 30 years to buy this house, to be debt-free, to stay debt-free. And let me tell you, it's a huge pain in the patootie, but we've done it.
It got better as we got. The main thing is we were really good at not spending, but there's a point where we realized the income was the issue more than the not spending.
Yeah.
And
that's where our big problem was. Mike was just not making enough money.
I should not have stayed at some of the jobs where I stayed, because I thought, oh, you have a job and you're supposed to be in a stable job, because there's a certain logic that people share, like, ooh, don't leave that job because what it'll look like, they'll say something bad on your permanent record. What permanent record? There's no permanent record. I need this job for the benefits. All those kinds of things, they were just not right. They weren't true. And I just was kind of buying into that. So I didn't get better jobs when I easily could have.
Yeah.
And I think that's the main thing, that I know a lot of people who are working jobs, they're like my age and they're working retail jobs for like $12, $15 an hour. And I'm thinking, and they have some reason, like I need the benefits or something, but I'm thinking, but you can do a lot better than that. Even it's hard when you're in that mindset to get out of that.
Yep. Now also on the houses, well, Mike's sending me the comments and questions that we do have. On the houses, why did we keep moving so much? Because we thought we were working our way up. A couple of moves were for my health, because like in Texas, it physically made me ill living in Texas. I literally could not get off the recliner. I was so sick. The other thing is
we learned the hard lesson, so you don't have to.
Yeah. The other thing is we were just moving up. So like in Idaho, we moved to one house that we were renting. 6 months later, we found a house that we could afford on $6 an hour, or $27,000 house. So we bought that. Then we moved to Kansas to try and help my brother after he got paralyzed. And then we realized that wasn't going to work, being 2.5 hours away. We couldn't go down and help him very well. So then we moved. We were in one really, really nasty rental. So we moved to a not quite so nasty rental in another town. And then we realized it was too far from my brother. So we moved to Wichita to be closer to him and for Mike to get a better job. So Mike got a job at PBS there. So one time we moved. One time we did move for a job. He got a job at PBS. And so we moved to Wichita. And then we were just moving up in houses. So we moved from one house in Wichita, and then I got pregnant with Dave, and we were going to move to a bigger house, we thought, and that was our huge mistake. We went on this bi-level house. That was a huge mistake. Mom was living with us. I had a new baby. I had a 5 and a 6-year-old. It was just a lot.
You mean
so
35th Street house?
No. And so then after that, we did move to a nicer house. Well, then our brother-in-law got cancer, terminal cancer, and our niece we knew Mike's parents wouldn't take care of her, and we knew her mom wasn't able to take care of her. So we moved back to Colorado to help them. And then we took on our niece. And so we spent 10 years in Colorado, and then we finally found our home in Wyoming. This is the first house that I've ever felt like I can say it's home. I have never, ever, not even growing up at the house in Wichita, I have never had a house where I felt like it was home, ever. In 40, 50, 49 years before we came here.
Wow. Yeah, it is funny because when we were going to move this time, we were able to do, so Tara says we never moved for a job except that one time. The thing is, we weren't really thinking of where we lived as chasing a job. We thought, where do we want to be? And then we'll get a job there. I do know that when we moved to Idaho, I expected to do banking, but then I expected to do real estate stuff because that was my experience. I mean, I had television experience, but not paid. And we knew living in the middle of nowhere in Idaho, there wasn't really going to be that opportunity, although it ended up there kind of was. But we didn't really chase the jobs to locations. We chose where we wanted to go, and then we looked for jobs in that area. And we could have done that in a better way. We did. One thing I would say is some of our moving around, I think we realized later if we had not really moved very much, we probably would have been about in the same situation in some places. But
originally we shouldn't have left Colorado, but we were having so many family problems that honestly, I don't think we would stay married if we would have stayed in Colorado. I really don't. I don't think we would still be married if we would have stayed in Colorado right after we got married. Because we moved 6 months after we got married to Texas. So
it was also not just family problems, but just generally just certain kind of life there that we needed to get away from things and restart our own lives together, married.
Yeah.
And so getting away from, but there was certainly were family issues that were good to separate ourselves from, because when you're in that situation, the family dynamic sort of pulls at you and controls you to some degree. And we were just like, we have to be our own unit here.
Yeah. And so, yeah, that's it. And as far as the disability, people say, oh, well, Tara, you look so good, like today. Well, actually, today I'm starting a new supplement and I am feeling better on the scale today. But my butt has been in the recliner a lot. I'm trying to get gardening stuff done, but I will literally go out in the garden, work for 5 or 10 minutes, and have to come in and sit down. Go 5 or 10 minutes, work in the garden, come sit down, because I literally have to push myself to say, okay, What is the very next thing you can do? Just do one more next thing. Okay, I can go put this garland up where it goes to be stored. And this is the middle of June. And I don't have, usually my garden is all decorated and everything's planned and ready to go. It's not, because I just haven't been able to function. And so, I'll sit here and do this, but what you guys don't see is after I do the show, I go and collapse. I don't cook dinner on show days. I don't do a lot on show days, because if I don't conserve my energy earlier, I'm not going to have any energy to do the show. So anyway, and for those of you that have been watching a while, I've been investigated. I was being investigated 5 years ago. So for all of you that followed that, so you can go back and watch that video. Just type in Social Security, I think.
It was in
and you'll be able to find it. It was in 2019. So I have nothing to hide. And I've told Social Security everything, my whole entire life. So it's not any big deal. There are people who will take and go watch YouTubers and influencers, and they'll call them out and say, oh, well, here's where they lied about this, or they lied about that, and they lied about this. Okay, yeah, I'm sure there's people that do that, and I have no problem with that. But I personally know some of the people that have been talked about in some of these things, and they totally get everything out of context. Or, yeah, they maybe said such and so, but they don't know the other half of what was happening. So anyway, it's just out there, but people like to make up their own stuff. So that's fine. Gives me content to talk about.
Well, and we talked about it in that video where she talks about it, but that investigation thing, we had a troll that was trying to was doing illegal things, but in a way that law enforcement we were working with law enforcement on it, but there's not a lot they could do because of the way the person was doing it. And we believe that person called disability and said, oh, you need to investigate these people. And after they investigated for like a year, they're like, no, you're not doing anything wrong.
Yeah.
But we were like, okay, that was anticlimactic. But there were other things that they had done which are highly illegal, calling people, trying to raise a stink against us. But
Angie says, so you sold the home you bought? We've sold tons of houses in our day. I don't know what you're talking about.
I think Angie was thinking that we bought a house a few years ago, and that was did the kids buy a house for us or something, which it didn't happen that way. But we did not sell the house we bought recently.
That's this house that we're in now. We've been here 4 years.
But we've bought and sold a number of other houses over the years.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And before I get to comments and questions, staying debt-free has paid off big time. You guys know my whole appliance debacle that we've been having. 5 appliances in 5 months have died. And we had to get rid of 2 of them and have major repairs on 3 of them. Well, guess what happened this week? Now our air conditioner is gone, and it's going to cost us, thanks to Obama, it's going to cost us $5,000 to $7,000 to get a new air conditioner now, because of the stupid environmental regulations that they have. Absolutely ticks me off. Our air conditioner is only about 10 years old.
It would be easy to repair, but because of the environmental regulations, the government just compelled them to raise the price of the refrigerant that goes in there so that people don't use it anymore. And parts, same thing with the parts for the unit. So it could easily be repaired. It would work great if that were the case. It would, but because of those,
didn't think he'd go 5 years, or
because of those rules, it would cost so much to repair it that it would be probably a better thing for us to just buy another one.
So
and that's ridiculous, really, because it turns out that there's obviously a long time ago there was Freon, or well, I don't forget what the original one was when we were kids. But anyway, they've 2 or 3 times along the way, they've just said, oh, now this is an environmental hazard. And they ban that one. And then they come out with a new one. And then after 10 or 15 years, and they decide that's an environmental hazard and they ban that one. And so that's where we are as the unit developed a leak, apparently. And we can pay to troubleshoot all that and fix it, but it would cost us more than half of buying a new one.
Yeah.
So we're like, hate to do that on a unit that is now expected to fail in 5 years.
But we wouldn't be able to pay cash for it if we weren't debt free.
Yeah.
So now we have the money to pay for that. But better late than never says paralyzed. Hope, oh my goodness, paralyzed from a root canal. Yeah. We've talked about this many times, but my brother got a root canal, had an infection. The dentist did not give him antibiotics, and the infection went into his bloodstream and paralyzed him for, it was about 3 or 4 years before he got full. Well, he's got about 70% of the use of his arms back. And then it happened again, like 10 years later, it happened again. But yeah, you can't, if you get a root canal, you need to be very, very careful. Robin just returned from an Alaskan cruise, following many of your ideas, helped us be able to enjoy such a bucket list. Yay!
That is amazing. Yay. Sorry. One thing on I didn't hear if you mentioned it, but her brother did get use of his arms back a couple of years later. He did say so?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry.
Pay attention. Are you just listening to the comments and
I'm
not
just
paying
looking in
attention
the
to
comments. I've got my face on the device the entire show.
And for those of you who don't know, he's watching the comments to nick the trolls in the butt before they.
And
yes,
also
I said butt and not bud.
And also to grab some for Tara to answer.
To talk about. Darlene
So
says,
if you have questions, go ahead and post them.
Darlene says, not for lack of caring, but it's not my place to comment on your personal life. Just saying. Yep. James, wow, I didn't know you had cookbooks. Yes, I actually have 3 cookbooks. We have Dining on a Dime, Volume 1 and Volume 2 on sale right now. 25% off. The link is in the description below. Start here, but they go together if you want to get both of them. And this one, the Volume 2, is just a continuation of Volume 1. I just couldn't fit all the recipes in one book. 600 pages, 400 pages. Full color pictures, not on every recipe. The book would be 4 times the size if it was the case, but full color recipes, old recipe cards from the original recipes that were my family's. And that is my first book and second book. And then I also have a gluten-free, dairy-free edition that I wrote, which is Volume 1, the red one. It's adapted for gluten-free, dairy-free. Little Crafty Nook sounds like a typical business, actually. Yeah, I mean, it is. Most businesses don't make money after the first 5 years. But I had, from the time I started my business, I started having kids. Well, I just couldn't work and have kids and work a business to make money. So I did an hour or 2 during nap. Mike did an hour or 2 every night after work, 3 hours sometimes every night after work. And then Mom would do an hour or 2 a week, for a little while we were doing newsletters and stuff. And then she helped me with shipping and a few things like that. But we didn't make any money until we were 8 years in. So, Bounty Badlands, first of all, so sorry to hear about your loss. I am sorry about that. And we would appreciate it if you would take your smoke back, please.
Did you see her ask about that?
No. Did she?
She asked if we're getting the smoke from, apparently it's 200 or 300 miles even further north from her.
I want Trump to build a dome to keep the smoke out. You Canadians can keep your own darn tune smoke. I got enough of my own here.
Last year we did, for
I
sure.
was so excited 3 days ago. I was like, yes, we've made it to the second week of June with no smoke. I literally thought that. And what happens the next day? It's the Canadians. It's all their fault. See, if they were actually the 51st state, we wouldn't have this problem. I'm only kidding. I'm only kidding.
Just joking. It's fine.
I know somebody will get their knickers in a knot for that one.
I've been surprised because I guess we didn't realize till just a couple of years ago how much smoke we get from other places. Because last year, until our fires late in the season, we were just completely smoked out all summer, like warnings to stay in the house over smoke from California or Oregon or Canada. And I was just thinking, wow, it's funny. We live quite a ways from many of those places. So it's amazing how the smoke travels.
And Valley Badlands, my husband 40 years ago broke his neck, and yes, he got disability, but that didn't even come close to paying our land payment, but it did help with groceries until we sold our cabs. Yeah, I mean, I lived on $300 a month until I got married. So people say, oh, well, you just can't do that. Yeah, you can. And I had to get really creative because even in the early 90s, living on $300 a month was nothing. It was absolutely nothing. And so what people don't realize, though, is you can work while you're on disability. Everybody thinks that if you're on disability, you can't work at all. Yeah, you can. You have to report it to disability, and I always have, but you can work while you're on disability. So when I was living on my own, I would get minimal part-time jobs, and I would work like 10 or 15 hours a week and then literally go home and sleep the rest of the time. And I did a little bit of gardening, but other than that, I couldn't do anything else. But that was enough to cover, that 10 or 15 hours was enough to cover the extra couple of $100 that I needed a month, because I was only earning $3 or $4 an hour to pay my expenses for disability. So you can send me the next one. Susie, well, truthfully, I don't think it's anyone's business how much money you make or what has happened in the past unless you want to disclose it. It's not their business. You do that, you guys. Yeah. The thing is, since we deal in finances, people feel like they need to know every one of our finances. We hide nothing with our finances because we do talk about finances, and I'm fine. I mean, I really don't care. So you can holler at me all you want, but you know, I'm the one who's sitting here in a really nice house with no debt, no car payment, no student loans, no credit card debt, and have literally clawed my way to the top, so to speak. And Mike has done all of the stuff in the behind the scenes to keep going so that our business could build on me not being able to work. You know, so yeah, today I'm working an hour and a half or so, and he's been at the library working all day. So just because you see my face, ready? This is where you go deep. Ready?
Ding.
Thank you. Just because you see my face doesn't mean I'm sitting here working, doing all this all the time. All right. Next comments are Connie. Hello, neighbor. We have a lot of smoke from Canada here in the Black Hills. I bet you do. Katie, hi from Indiana. I think you guys would love living in West Carmel, Indiana. It's the yard sale gold mine every summer. Oh, I bet it is. Wow. I don't know if I could even handle it. I'd have to take a horse trailer back with me or something like that. Jim, don't be jealous. They've earned everything they have through very hard work and patience. Their business requires a lot of time and effort. Yes, thank you, Jim. And it's funny because people will come to buy my stuff off a marketplace, and every single time, 99% of the time that people come up, they're like, wow, this place is so nice. You're so lucky to have this place. And I am very, very quick to assure them luck had nothing to do about it. Has God blessed us? Yes, but we've also done our part to work and be responsible with our money, not eating out, not driving new cars, not having credit card debt, not getting student loans, not going out to eat every day, not getting a Starbucks every day, not getting my nails done, not getting my hair done with other than just haircuts. So yeah, thank you, Jim. Cindy, when we got married in the late 80s, my husband was in school, made $300 a month. I made $15,000 a year, not much, but we made it. Yep. Bounty says, Jim, amen. People are jealous, and that blocks their ability to see how to do the same. It is.
And that's what's frustrating a lot of times for us when people, because there are people that they just want to be out there and be critic and try to gotcha everybody that they're looking at that tells them anything. And so that instead of thinking, what can I learn from this? They're just thinking, how can I catch this person in a lie? And it's kind of frustrating for us, not because they're, coming after us for something we didn't do, but because we're thinking we're here trying to help, and these people they're just blowing all their money on dumb things. And instead of trying to learn how to fix that, they're just looking for ways to shoot us down. It's like they want to justify the bad situation they're in by coming up with reasons to explain to the world that we don't know what we're talking about. That way, if they're wasting all their money and they're completely in debt all the time, they don't have to feel bad about it, because they can tell themselves there's nothing that can be done because these people are just a scam.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what I think. That's what their goal is. And it's sad, because I think, man, you could be doing a lot better. Because one of the people that we had, the one that we were dealing with the law enforcement, they said there's not a lot they can do because the person was playing a game a certain way. And so I counter stalked her. Basically, I decided well, if she's doing this, I can look and find out who she is. I didn't contact her or anything, but the thing is, I learned what her situation was, and I realized, now I understand why you're having this problem, and you should actually be listening to us. I mean, I didn't tell her that. It's not my place to contact her or any of that stuff, and that would have been really bad. But just understand, like realizing that I could figure out who this person is, and then learn what their situation is. And in my mind, I was able to say, okay, this person's not really a threat. This person's just a frustrated person who doesn't know how to make her own life work. So she's just trying to shoot us down.
Yeah. So it's funny because I've told you guys I've been selling all my stuff on Facebook Marketplace. Well, I got a text from a lady, and she said, oh, can I come down and get your greenhouse windows? And I said, sure. And she said, yeah, I live 300 miles away in another state. And I said, oh, are you coming just for that? And she's like, well, yeah. And she said, but by the way, and she sent me a picture of our old Dining on a Dime cookbook, of the edition that was before this one. And so she's a viewer, a reader. And she said, yeah, she said, I bought a lot of books from you. She said, so I was really excited. Are you okay if I come down? Yeah, I'm like, yeah, sure. So we stood and talked to her for, I don't know, hour and a half. She was here quite a while. But she said, she said, I bought 15 books from you guys to give away to all her nieces and nephews and kids and everybody that's been getting married and graduating and all that. So that was really fun, because sometimes we run into people, doing things like that. But then there's other times where people can be real crazy. But what was funny was she said, I promise I'm not a stalker. I was like, yeah, I didn't think you were. I mean, despite what the stalkers think, we're better than they are. And so...
Well, I think some of the stalkers would be alarmed to know what we've discovered about them.
To know what we know about them.
Because when I was dealing with the Colorado Bureau of Investigation on that, I learned a lot of things, and I think he was a little surprised how I could find out some of this stuff.
Yeah, CBI was impressed with Mike's investigating skills.
I mean, they obviously have their tools that they can do it with too, but just being a regular Joe and being able to find out stuff, I think he was impressed.
So anyway, it's pretty funny. Darlene, big score. I'm a truck driver. I picked up a fancy bakery. I asked if they had any free samples. Yes, 5 loaves of really good French bread. $0. Hey, that is great. Yum. I love it when I get freebies like that. Fro's family, not only have they worked very hard, they have lived frugally for a lifetime. Yes, this is 30 years worth of work. It really is. Although
we could have done some things better. And that's one of the reasons why we share a lot of what we share, because there's some things that we did that we thought this is going to be a great idea. And then we realized later, it's not a great idea. And we've one example was we had mentioned about when we had a giant medical bill from when our daughter was born, and they disqualified Flight for Life, that
the insurance wouldn't pay for Flight for Life.
We put it, and so we put it on a 0% credit card because that was a lot less interest than the hospital was going to charge. But later we discovered the hospital would have written it off, and so it's things like that where we thought we were doing something that was going to be financially responsible, and in the end, it ended up being a lot more expensive at a time where we really couldn't afford it.
Yeah.
So we like to share some of those things we've learned along the way to shortcut people.
Somebody said they like my nails. Thank you. I did my patriotic video today for my other channel, super easy recipes. I will get that link real quick for you guys here. That channel is just booming like crazy. It's unbelievable how much that channel is growing. I'll put the link here for you guys. But yeah, okay, let's see. Next one is Amazing Grace, or Jody says, oh, is that the Jody that just came? I think it is, that just came to get our windows. She says, so happy you found our forever home. Yeah, Mike and I have both decided that we are going to die in this house.
Yes.
Maybe sooner than
Lord
later,
willing.
but we're going to die in this house.
We always have to throw Lord willing on the end there just because.
I'm getting my stuff down
That's
in
our
case
plan
I go
anyway.
next week. I'm getting my stuff down. I'm getting closer.
Well, not soon. The plan isn't soon, but that's.
Well, I'm 50 some odd years old
I know,
now.
but your family, you could live twice as long as that.
We have longevity in our family. Okay, Amazing Grace. I feel that also, Tara, but I figured it's because this world is not our home. We're just traveling through. Yeah, that's true too. Nancy, the hardest part of autoimmune is that you don't always feel or look sick, then 10 minutes later wiped out. Yeah, exactly. Although I will tell you, one of my viewers, thank you so much, sent me a video of this lady, and I think I may have found one of the key elements on why I keep doing all these diets and supplements and everything, and it's not working. And I'll update you guys in a little bit. If you want to email me, if you have autoimmune or anything like that, you can go ahead and email me and I'll send it to you. editor@livingonadime.com. But or go to livingonadime.com, click contact. But I've been taking these supplements for 2 days and I already feel a little bit better. I was like, whoa. So I'm hoping it'll help some. Amazing Grace, I'm disabled. I know what you mean. Oh, wait. Debbie says, I wonder if all these people who want to know about your personal life, if they tell everyone their personal life. I know they don't. Todd, everyone says, oh, well, you're a celebrity, so you're supposed to take the criticism. You're supposed to have your whole life put out on a platter. No. Now, I choose to do that so you can see how I live frugally so that I can have the life that I have. But no, it's not a requirement. It's not anything that you have to, not you in particular, Debbie, but it's not like I'm responsible to you for every decision in my life. It's ridiculous. Tanya, I've moved 13 times in my life, but I've never lived outside the state of Michigan. Wow. Okay, I've moved about that many too, but I've moved all over the place. Bounty in the Badlands, Tara, you guys are experiencing the wildfire smoke from northern Canada. Yes, just discussed that. We are. And you can have your smoke back. What? You know, here's a funny thing. Mike talked to a guy, was it McDonald's or library?
About what?
About the smoke, about the fire prevention thing.
That was at McDonald's when I used to work at various places in the old days.
Tell him that story. It was pretty funny, actually.
Well, yeah, there was a guy I knew. I take my work to the library often. Other places I've taken it to other libraries and McDonald's and stuff like that. And McDonald's was one place I'd go when the library was closed or whatever. And there was a guy there that, well, there were always old guys drinking coffee, but there was another guy who would come and sit by himself, and he had hair like Einstein. And he was always frantically drawing pictures and writing notes and making diagrams. And he would talk about working on various projects, and he used to talk about working in the NASA program and stuff like that. And we were always trying to figure out, is he telling us the truth? It sounds true, but we're not really sure. But he said he had this idea for a fire suppression system, and he described exactly how it would work using sound to put out fire. And he said that the government wouldn't buy it because they didn't want to put firefighters out of business, which sounded weird to me. But anyway, it's funny though, because recently there was a university that released a thing saying how amazing it is they've been experimenting with this kind of thing, and it's exactly what he described.
Yeah, they showed these teenagers took their bass, bass speakers, and they turned it towards the fire, and it put the fire out. And all these people were like, oh yeah, I keep trying to smoke weed in my car while I'm while I'm listening to my music and it keeps putting my, out, or I keep smoking in my car and it keeps putting my cigarette out. And apparently, I don't know if it's true or not, but I thought that was pretty funny that then we saw that, and his acquaintance had been talking about that. Wanda, I live in a 1970 mobile home that needs repairs, including rewiring electricity. I wonder, how do I decide to do repairs or move when it comes to time for that decision? So we just weigh the cost. So in your situation, how valuable is your mobile home? And I'm just going to throw these random numbers out, but this is how I would go about it. So let's say my mobile home is worth $50,000. I would say, okay, it's $50,000. It's going to cost me $5,000 or $10,000 to rewire my mobile home. Well, let's just Google it. How much does it cost to rewire a mobile home? So according to AI, it takes between $2,000 and $17,000. So let's just say it takes $8,000. So if you had to move, would it be $8,000 in moving costs, down payments for a house, for your rent, if you can't own it anymore, if you have to rent it? How long would it take for you to make that $8,000 back? So then you just determine if it takes like 3 years or 2 years or 5 years, however much time. Just determine, okay, yeah, it's worth it for me to move, so I'm not spending 5 years to make my money back. Or I could actually have a better deal if I go ahead and just rent somewhere. So I'm going to take that $8,000 and put it towards rent, which will get me maybe a year's worth of rent. So that's how I would go about it. Now, let's say your mobile home is worth $5,000 or $10,000 and it's going to take $8,000 to rewire it. Well, okay, can you really find a house cheaper than that? So for $8,000, that would be about a year's worth of rent. Could you live in your mobile home for longer than a year? And then it would be paid off. So that's how I would go about figuring it.
One thing I would say is mobile homes, they don't last like a regular house.
Yeah.
And so if you could spend $20,000 to fix it up, or what I'm saying is, if you do all the math and you realize it's probably about 50-50, it's about the same, whether it's fixing it up or moving to a new place, I would move to a new place. Because there's going to be, to some degree, if you put a lot of work into a mobile home, their lifespan isn't that long anyway. So it'd be better to buy a new one, or a new to you one that's in better shape, than to put too much money into one that's already existing.
So you just have to sit and figure which is worth it for you.
So I would look at that. If it needs a whole lot of work, probably I would get another one and sell the one you have. But it very much depends.
Let's see. Jesus and coffee, holy cow, I'd be buying window units. Yeah, I had actually suggested that last night.
Wait, for what?
Air conditioning. But the thing is, our house is situated that we have no windows that we can put window units in, except for 2 bedrooms. So Jack would only be the one with air conditioning, because we don't have any windows that a window unit can go into. So our house is kind of designed weird with that. But it's fine. We just have to do it.
The difference between repairing it and replacing it would be $2,500. It'd be $5,000 to replace it and $2,500 to fix it. But I was thinking about it, and I actually put an air conditioner window unit into the studio here. And it had a similar situation where there's no suitable window. So I had to open the wall and make a space I had to build some new structure in the wall and make a space to put that unit in, and then reconstruct the rest of the wall. And we were just thinking, by the time we do all that, it would just be way too complicated. And our house is valuable enough that we can't really do that long term. And it would have to be a temporary solution. But the other thing is that our living room is pretty large with a vaulted ceiling, and we would have to have a pretty ginormous unit in there to cool that room. So, I don't know. the one we have in here is kind of small and it does the studio pretty well, but we have this part of the studio curtained off from the rest so that the cold mostly stays over here. So ultimately, I think it would be like,
I'd be curious to see what the temp is on this side of the curtain and over there.
well, like Jill had talked about in the past, using buckets to catch rainwater and swimming pools and stuff because she didn't have the money to pay for that. But what I realized is there's a certain amount of hassle you go through and other damage and things that happen in that. This wouldn't be damage, but just ultimately, I think in the situation we're in, we can afford to do it, and it would probably be smarter based on, you know, our house and all that. And so I think we probably will end up doing the other one, because we could, again, I mentioned the difference is like $2,500 between the cost to repair ours and buy a new one.
Of course, I told Pistol, our appliance repairman, I take back everything I said about the, let's see, it's been $3,000 in repairs and new appliances. No, it's more than that. It's probably close to $5,000. Well, it's about the same, I guess, about $5,000. I said I take everything back because now we have the AC. Oh, Jim says you'd get rich faster if they made appliances better. No kidding.
Well, it's funny is because.
Oh, thanks, Darlene.
Oh, thank you very much, Darlene.
SC Fund. Swamp cooler.
Maybe so.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. That was very kind of you.
Nancy, I saw the smoke maps and the Midwest has been bad. Northwest New York got that in 2023. Couldn't open the windows. Oh, yeah. From July, August, September, and some of October here for the last 3 years we've lived here, you basically can't go outside without just being gagged by smoke. It's awful. We can't even enjoy our summers here because the smoke is so bad from all the forest fires between us and Canada.
Well, and actually it's really been a struggle in that we have a lot of days where they say you shouldn't really go outside unless you have a really important reason to be out there. You should limit your exposure and all this. And the smoke isn't even from anywhere near us. Like the ones that are in Canada right now, I think they're at least 1,500 miles from us. That's a long way.
That's ridiculous.
So, and we also get smoke from, you know, California and Oregon and all those. It does depend on which way the wind is blowing.
Cindy says, we got a new furnace and air about 4 years ago. Wonder how much it will last. The last system lasted over 20 years. Yep. Amazing Grace. If you don't have our cookbooks, you must get them. I have all of them. Thank you, Amazing Grace. Yay. She has all three, volume 1 and volume 2, separate recipes. Just couldn't put them all in one book. And then my gluten-free, dairy-free edition right there. 25% off in the description below. Easy recipes, get you in and out of the kitchen quick. That don't cost a lot of money with ingredients you already have on hand. And Jody says the cookbooks are, beautiful. Thank you so much. Juices and coffee. Tara and Mike, I have a question that is off topic, but really bugging me. My kids are having a hard time at church with King James Version Bible, but my pastor says it's the only Bible we should use. Thoughts? I would find another church.
Find another church. King James is an okay Bible. I mean, it's a perfectly fine Bible. But the thing is,
nothing wrong with it.
It's not in a language that most Americans speak. And kids especially are just going to have a really hard time with it. But when you say on the spectrum, kids on the spectrum, I mean, for those of you who don't understand, the spectrum is like autism and stuff like that. And it's just going to be unnecessarily confusing them.
And frustrating
them. And they're not going to want to read the Bible at all anymore. And they'll just stay away from it. And so I would say, I would probably get them like a New Living Translation. There's an NIV version now. Well, NIV itself is pretty easy, but there's one called NIRV, I think, which is it's an NIV designed for people 5th grade and under, in terms of the reading level to understand it. Those would be probably a lot better because the reality is, first of all, some churches say King James is the only way to go. I'm sorry if you're in a church like that and you agree with it. It's just not true.
Use this example. Would you expect to go to a place of like Papua New Guinea and say they can only use the King James Bible? or Africa, wherever,
Well,
and they can only use the King James Bible. You can't translate it into their own language. We're just translating it into our language now.
And like I said, it's a perfectly fine Bible for people that want to read it. But when people say it's the only good Bible, that's just not true. And for like with your kids, if they would actually read the Bible, it would be worth reading a Bible at least starting with a Bible they can understand. And so I would recommend New Living Translation or NIRV for kids. Ultimately, like for me, I use a New Living Translation for reading, but I also use New American Standard or ESV, English Standard, for kind of more Bible study stuff. But for kids, you just want them to read it. The other thing is, I did share a link for, I forgot who was it asked, Coffee and Jesus and Coffee.
Jesus and Coffee.
I shared a link to, there's one called the Action Bible, which is not actually a Bible, but it is a comic book. It's a big hardback book. It's in comic book form with many, many Bible stories in it. And I do know that when our boys were younger, it was really helpful for them. Like they had a real Bible, but they also had the Action Bible, and they would just read that for fun. And it helped them in the real Bible, because then when they get the Bible story in the real Bible, they'd be like, oh, this is that story. And it would make it easier for them to understand that. And for somebody who's on the spectrum, like an autism spectrum or something, they might like the imagery as a kind of a bridge into reading. And there are some video things as well, but I don't remember what those are. That might be useful. But definitely.
And remember, it's not you that is saving your child. God understands people who have mental disabilities. He understands that they're not going to understand everything all the time. And for some of those people, I don't have a Bible verse to prove this, but I'm thinking about David in the Bible where it says, you will be with your son in heaven. I think that God will treat people who have, a childlike mental capacity, functioning as a little child and with faith as a child. And so how do I say this? A lot of parents really, as parents, we are to teach our kids about the Bible, and we are to tell them about Jesus and God's love for us. And we are to teach them the Bible. We are to teach them how to pray, worship, all of those things. But ultimately, we're not the ones who are going to save our children. The pastor of the church is not going to save your child. The King James Bible is not going to save your child. Jesus is the one that's going to save your child. So just pray that God will open their eyes to what they need to know. And just continue to pray for them like that. As Christians, a lot of times we give ourselves way too much credit. Yes, we're supposed to tell people about Jesus, but it's not ultimately up to us. It's not our decision. It's between that person and God, that person and Jesus. So anyway, I think just the fact that you're concerned about it is wonderful, but just keep talking about God, talking about Jesus, playing your praise music, praying with them, and it will get through to what they need to know.
Well, and it's awesome because you are your child. I mean, even though God will reach them, but nevertheless, God put you in their lives for a purpose. And part of that purpose in this case, I think, is removing roadblocks to them having a closer relationship with Christ. Because the churches, typically the churches that say King James only are also have a lot of other rules that are not in the Bible. And the Bible isn't really about rules. The Bible's, Jesus came we're commanded to have faith, to believe in him, and that's all. And the rules I can't remember where it says it. Paul says that I think it was in Romans, that the rules are, that the law is given so that we understand how sinful we are, but that our actual salvation comes from faith in Christ alone and what he's done for us. And so a lot of the churches that say you must only read a King James, they have a lot of other rules that are also not in there. And even though I say King James is a great Bible, it is a translation from the original material. It is not the actual original word of God any more than the other ones. And there are a lot of good translations. So King James, perfectly fine if people want to read it. But if your kids can't read it or won't read it because it's too hard for them, give them something they can and remove the barrier from them. Like for us, I think just removing the barriers from the kids coming closer to Jesus is perfect. Like he will do the work, but we're there because he put us there for some reason. And one of those reasons I think is
to tell them,
shepherding them and guiding them and removing barriers that other people try to place in front of them to prevent them from coming.
Yep. Can you turn that down a little bit? I'm actually cold.
She was like, so we should live in the studio now.
So we haven't had any AC. So Mike turned on the studio air conditioner, and I'm like actually getting cold because it's set on what, like 61 or something?
I set it on 64 because
64.
I was just trying
Maybe
to.
68
I wasn't sure.
Good.
It was really humid in here, and I wasn't sure what the temperature was
Thank
like.
you.
We never usually go below 68. But wait, 68 or 78? 78. 68 in the winter.
Yeah.
But in the studio was hot and humid, and I was like,
Yes.
I'm just going to turn it on.
He knows that I'm like sugar. I melt in the heat of humidity, right?
Yeah, humidity especially.
Okay. Let's see. Next questions. I did not get them yet. Did you send 3?
Yes. Let me look. Did I send it to myself? No, I sent it to you.
I did not. Hold on. Sorry guys, we are having a problem here. We only got 2.
Hold on.
Oh, whoops, wait a minute. Okay, for all of you guys who've already emailed me on the supplement in that video, let me write up a summary of it so you can understand it better and what I've researched. And then give me this evening or tomorrow, and I'll get it all emailed to you. I've got lots of people, so I'll just do one up real quick and then send it to you. Our computers are not talking to each other.
It's that internet.
Just one second.
Huh.
Believe, balance. The only thing I believe and follow is I have said with my mouth that I am a sinner. Lord, lead me. The rest of my Bible study seems to fall into place. Yes, you are right. Diane, the weather manipulates are reporting that here down South Carolina, upstate area, we are experiencing Canadian smoke lately between this and this one fantasy and the lines. I have no idea what that means.
Go to your other email.
Turid, hello. Turid in Norway.
Turid's on. Yay. Wait, why is it not on the other one either? Oh, there it is. It is on this one.
Okay. Here we go. Jennifer, I've been trying to lose weight on my own with not much success. Do you think it would be okay to spend money to join Weight Watchers if I can get a deal on it? Yeah, that's fine. You can.
If you have the money.
Yeah, if you have the money. I mean, I did Weight Watchers when I was a teenager. Kimberly, after my husband was shot at several times during his mail route in our hometown of Aurora, Illinois. Oh my goodness, I can just imagine. We moved to Wisconsin farm for safety and peace and quiet. That after 20 years ago was the best move we ever made. Yeah, sometimes you just got to make those moves for your own sanity. Christina, was there anything about living in Texas that you liked? I'm currently in LA County and I want to leave the state. Just don't know where to go. Thanks. I love watching you guys. Always great information. No, I thought Texas was the pit of hell. I hated Texas. Now, there are some people who will disagree with me on that, and that's okay. But
it is hot.
The only thing I did like was that I could have a garden, and I had a really long gardening season, which was really nice to have. So I was able to garden what my little 2x3 space or 3x4 space, however big it was really tiny. But no, the heat The humidity, Austin to me was just awful. I hated Austin. It's even worse now from what I understand. The bugs, cockroaches, all the, everything. No, I had no desire for Texas at all. And I have not been back since, except to fly through to a internet conference.
So I don't know what it's like now, but back in 2005 and earlier, people generally were very friendly.
They were nice.
It's a nice place in a lot of ways, but it's very hot and humid in the summer.
They don't know how to drive down there at all.
And Central and Southeast Texas are nicer than some of the other parts of Texas. It depends on what you like. What I like is more trees and grass and stuff like that. And North is more like Kansas, and Southwest is more deserty. But anyway, there are a lot of people that have been moving there though lately, and I know some things have changed in some places, so I'm not totally sure. So some of the people that live in Texas may give their opinions in the comments to you as well.
And they don't know how to drive there.
Well, in Dallas, they don't know how to drive. Well, they used to know how to drive in Austin, but it's been a long time. So, and Austin has some crazy stuff that's been going on in the last few years.
JT says, how do you really feel about Texas? It is a toilet. It is a pit. It is straight from the pit of hell. When I say straight from the pit of hell, I'm thinking of Texas. Okay, now that I just made all of our Texas people mad, mostly just for me, it's because of the heat and humidity.
She couldn't live there because
I couldn't do the heat and humidity.
It wasn't.
So,
I don't even think you disliked anything else about it, did you?
No, the people were really nice.
Yeah,
but I just
she gets super sick from heat and humidity.
And just make me horrible.
She was in bed the whole time we were there. I grew up there, and in general, I liked it a lot. Again, like I said, some things might be changing because a lot of people are moving there. Main thing I would say is
Californians are changing it a lot too.
Yeah, if there's a place you want to go because there's a problem where you're leaving, just make sure that you choose a place that you like the way it is now.
Yeah.
That you don't want to make it like the place that you came from. That's the main thing I would say. So yeah, somebody else mentioned somewhere else in the South. Oh no, they mentioned Maryland. I don't know. That would seem to be, to me, that would be way too many people. But I guess it depends on what you like.
Kimberly says we're going to try a new air conditioner this year too, but I don't know if it's going to be the budget. We have a 1970 air conditioner, so it's 55 years old, but it still works. We were able to help a little bit by using a few window units since we were trying to not overtax the central air. That's a great idea. And just put in some fans. We have central air, but I am always running a fan, not even a ceiling fan, a fan that stands on a pedestal, because sometimes it's not the temperature, it's just getting the air moving. And our house feels so much better when there's just air moving from a fan in the house. As a matter of fact, we're taking the fan today from the studio back into the house so we can use it. But anyway, yeah, Teresa, my husband has Parkinson's and is on disability. He has good days and bad days, but people constantly tell him he doesn't look that bad or make comments. Must be nice to be home all day. If people only knew. Oh, I know. It's awful. And the way people treat you, you know, like I don't have a handicap sticker, but there were times when I should have gotten one. And like when I was pregnant and I had to go grocery shopping, it was a nightmare. Mom helped me when I had BJ and Ellie. And so that was helpful. So she could help push me around in the wheelchair. But my goodness, it was awful. But people just look at you like you're crazy. Well, when I was pregnant, I was on bed rest because I was having early labor problems. So if I went to the store, I had to use a wheelchair. And people looked at me like I was, you know, whatever. But it could have been very serious. I could have died if I would have been walking around Walmart. So Cheryl, I had to replace my unit 3 years ago, and it was $7,000. Thankfully, I was debt-free and able to pay for it. Yep. Sarah, I have to get a root canal. I have to see a specialist on Friday to tell me what he's going to do. Do you think maybe I should just pull the 2 teeth? I cannot make that decision, Sarah. I mean, my thought on it is if there's absolutely anything you can do to save the tooth, I would do that. But I would definitely, if there's any hint of infection, make sure you get antibiotics, because that's what happened to my brother. He had his root canal. They pulled it. and did a root canal, and or did they? Yeah, I think they pulled it and did a root canal. I can't remember, but well, no, they must have left it and done the root canal. I can't remember. It's been 20 years ago. I can't remember, but anyway, there was infection. The dentist was just like, "Oh no, you'll be fine." No, he wasn't. So
well, and I heard a dentist one time say that it's best not to pull teeth because in the future, if you need some other work, sometimes they need that to attach whatever it is, the dental work too. So if there's any way you can just have them fix it or repair it in some sort of useful way, I probably would choose that before I would ever try to pull it.
Okay. And Lori, Tara, doesn't matter what kind of oatmeal you buy, like steel cut or rolled coats. Just buy what you want to eat. Steel cut has more fiber, but it's whatever you want to eat. So I'm going to walk over and see what the neighbors are doing over there. They have been jackhammering for 3 days at our neighbor's house. What can they possibly be jackhammering for 3 days?
Building a swimming pool. I don't know. I'm just joking. Well, they're remodeling a house, so I guess.
Yeah, but they've been jackhammering for 3 days. It's crazy. I don't know if you guys can hear it or not, but it's just right across over here.
It hasn't bothered me too much because I'm thinking they're probably improving it, so that would be all right.
No, it's more curious. It's more curious. I'm being a nosy neighbor.
Oh, you're being a nosy neighbor.
I'm being an old lady nosy neighbor.
I see.
I have earned the right to be an old lady nosy neighbor.
All right then.
Cindy, Costco, why buy a membership? Generic sinus medication, glucosamine, no salt, 21 spice, ground turkey cheeses. There are these and others pay the dues, especially meds, vitamins. Yes, that's totally fine. Like for me, allergy medicine was, I don't think it still is, but it used to be cheaper at Costco. So that would pay for my entire year's membership just in allergy medicine alone. I didn't have a Costco membership except for like 2 or 3 years because between the allergy medicine and needing it for business stuff, because I need to buy the products to test on the shows, it doesn't save money a lot. But there are a few things that if you're very specific and that's what you use, then go ahead and get the membership if it will actually pay for itself. Or like their return policy. I think they have a year return policy. So now Kohl's used to also have a year return policies, but if you can't get it at Kohl's, then I would buy it at Costco and it would probably be worth it for that.
Jesus and Coffee said, thank you for your help, guys. Sorry, I was driving when you responded and I'm parked now.
Uh-oh, that's fine. Mrs. Chef Yoda, I was going to buy a new vehicle, $40,000 for a vehicle, $700 a month. Just couldn't do it. Still driving my Subaru, no monthly payment, 161 miles. Good for you. Hey, I say drive it until it dies. Keep saving up the money. Seriously, I would not buy anything new until it dies. Darlene, would you be willing to make the Guinness Book World Record of size brownies? Oh, yeah. My family would love to eat that. How would I go about making that, though?
Wonder how big it is.
I don't know. How would you bake something like that? I don't know. Would you piece it together?
I don't know how big the Guinness Book of World Record size is.
We should Google it. Maybe you should Google it. Darling says world domination, brownie or fudge. I don't know. Susie, yes, people should be grateful that you're spending your expertise and spreading your expertise and trying to help others. Thank you. Yes. Little Crafty Nook, you can see me the next one. People don't want to change. It's easier to just keep doing the same thing. Definition of insanity. Actually, they don't seem to want different results. No, they don't. Cindy, I also live in Indiana and bought an antique Scottish Sporran purse. Went to have it fixed and they offered $100 for it. I paid $15 for it. I saved an antique and made money. Wow. Dee Dee, no, you guys wait till you see my video on the stuff I've been selling. I have made a profit on everything I've sold on Facebook Marketplace so far. Knock on wood. Knock on wood. But I'm going to do a video. I'm going to try and get to it this week and show it to you guys. Little Crafty Nook, she bought our cookbooks. Thank you. You can get them below in the description. for her granddaughter a wedding present. Thank you. We have a lot of people buying for wedding, graduation, and birthday gifts, bridal showers also. Valley Badlands, doubters watching load. Please heed Tara's tips. Things are going to get really tough in the next year for many, unless they make changes now. Yes, it is. And it's funny because you keep talking about the beef prices going up. Jack's birthday was this week, so we had a birthday party for him. And one of the families that came, they're ranchers.
They're ranchers here.
And I asked him, I said, okay, one of our Canadian viewers keeps saying the price is going up on beef. Are you noticing that too? He said, oh yeah. He said it's at an all-time high because inventory is at an all-time low. And I was like, well, why in the world is inventory at an all-time low? And he said, I think it's because ranchers are aging out. Because he said here in the United States, the average rancher now is 70 years old because kids don't want to take on,
their parents, their families, ranchers. Yeah.
Yep. So,
although the stuff Bounty's talking about is oftentimes, I think, market related. I think sounds like when you talk about stuff, it's like you think it might be going up or down for this reason or that reason, but he seemed to say that the whole trend is going up for that reason.
So enjoy your hamburger while you can get it, guys. Jody, yes. Oh, it was her. I thought that was her, but I didn't go look on Facebook. Thanks for all you do to help others live frugal and fulfilling lives. Yes, I think we would get along with Jody and her husband if they lived closer. So if you guys are coming through Sheridan, you need to say hi again. We'll go out to dinner or something, or have you over for dinner.
Yeah, contact us if you come back through.
It was fun talking to you guys. And she's been with us a long time because this is our edition now, but she had our other edition, which was the red and white one. So that's been almost 10 years now.
Wow.
So, you can see my next one. Donna, also congratulations on your success. Sounds like y'all have worked hard. Yes, we have. 5. Let's do it for 5.
Wait, I just sent you 4 like 1 minute ago. There's a bunch of stuff on it.
Oh, wrong one. Okay. Wanda, I forgot to mention that I live in a park, so I pay a lot of rent. Yeah, you'll just have to sit and run the numbers and see how much you're willing to pay for rent or another new place, or how much it's going to cost for you to stay in your current place. Because here's the thing, people will say, oh, well, mobile homes go down in value. Yeah, they go down in value. But if you're paying the same amount as you're paying for rent and you own it, it might be worth it for you. But you're the only one that can determine that. And just sit down with a piece of paper, renting or buying a new mobile home on this site, fixing up my current one on this site, and just see what you think might be more financially feasible for you.
And it is a little bit of a challenge sometimes because you need to think about the cost that you pay to buy it. And like you said, you're in a park, so you have to pay the lot rent as well. So for people that aren't in a mobile home, that would be a thing you have to think about. And there's, what I was suggesting is if it's going to be too much to fix yours, you could probably sell it for something and then get another one. If you want to stay in a mobile home, that'd be fine.
Yeah.
But okay. I still think that might end up less expensive than renting for a lot of people.
Block Pony Studios says, hey there, this is Jolene from Nevada. Hello. Thank you for staying on YouTube and not giving in. You're welcome. Can't say I'm not going to give in one of these days, though, but thank you. Amazing Grace, I always try supplements. I'm open to suggestions. Yeah, if you guys want to know the new supplements that I'm trying, I've only been on it 2 days, but it has helped me some. And so you guys might just watch this video and see if this sounds like you. It might be worth a try for you. Loretta, every day is a job. When you pay attention and follow directions of the Bible, things work out better. Yep. Nancy, celebrities, Mike and Tara for the next People magazine cover story. Can you see me on People magazine? Get it together, People.
Yeah, People is one you haven't been in, isn't it?
No, People is one. Let's say I've been in Women's World, Family Circle, Women's Day, Parade. The thing that went in the newspapers. Do they still do that? Hundreds of local magazines and newspapers. Countryside Magazine was where we got our very first article start. Mrs. Chef Yoda, loved the Bible verse, Proverbs 22:3. The prudent sees dangers and take refuge, but the simple go and suffer for it. Exactly. Little crafty nook. But then they complain and suffering that they brought on themselves. Yeah, like all this credit card debt, student loans, car payments. People are bringing it on themselves. 99% of the people that have a car payment, there's no reason for you to have a car payment. You can get a very inexpensive car for $3,000 to $5,000 and pay cash for it and get yourself from point A to point B. It may not be real pleasant, but you can do it. Pink Pisces says, wow, just watch Easy Recipes, red, white, and blue. 4th of July, they all sound so good. You and Mike are committed to the community. What a blessing to a lot of viewers. Thank you. Yeah, so my other channel, Super Easy Recipes, I just did a series of 7 patriotic 4th of July recipes for the 4th coming up here in the United States. I mean, I know the 4th is coming up all over the world, but the 4th of July celebration.
A special meeting in the US and in London.
So anyway, so go check out those recipes. Super Easy Recipes is my other YouTube channel. Little Crafty Nook.
I'll reshare the link for that. So if you look in the description of the show, there's a link to Super Easy Recipes, but I will also share it in the comments here.
Yeah. Little Crafty Nook says, my ex-husband dropped the insurance as soon as it got paid off, and then they had a fire. Oh my goodness, how stupid can you be?
Man, I would especially...
You're not going to drop our insurance next week when we pay off the house, are you?
No, because we went to all this trouble to get the house and to pay it off, and when it's all ours, why would we want to throw away?
Or are we paying it off tomorrow?
It depends on if the payment I made yesterday clears, and so that we can know how much is actually left.
Oh.
I was going to try to do it today, but it was still not showing.
Do we need to guys, do we need to live stream when we pay off our house?
The one thing I was thinking is,
how do we celebrate?
The one thing I was thinking would be cool, except that there might be something on the screen we don't want the general public to see.
Well, you could zoom in and just show the payment part, right? This little part.
Can you zoom in on the live stream?
I don't know. I would try it. Little Crafty Nook says we should. Bounty, so you're not going to drop the insurance when we pay off the house, right?
No.
You hesitated. There's no hesitation in that answer.
I was thinking about Jesus and Coffee's question.
Yeah, but there's no hesitation in that answer. Bounty Badlands, Tara, you need to get some pure silk wild rags. What in the world is a pure silk wild rag? To cover your nose and mouth. Breathing is easier, but I'm still trying to get something to keep my eyes from burning. Oh, that's interesting. What in the world is pure silk wild rags? I don't know what that is, but I will certainly try it because I can't even go out in the garden. It's so, just like a scarf. Okay. It's so frustrating. As soon as the smoke starts here, it just doesn't stop until we get our snow in October. And it's so incredibly frustrating. Roxanne, what about mini split? We'd have to be cutting open walls to put in a mini split or window AC. So that's why we can't do it. Because we literally have no windows to put any of these things in the way our house is designed.
Right. But BJ said a mini split would be $15,000. Our son puts
well, no, that's not even worth it then.
For the size of our house.
Yeah.
It would just be really expensive. It would be a neat thing because he has one on his bus. But but it would cost more for our house than a regular unit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They are pretty cool.
Jennifer, the company, you can send me the next one. Jennifer, the company that worked on my parents' heat pump said the newer ones are not near as good as the older ones. I know, ours is only 10 years old. It's ridiculous. Darlene, have you ever tried making chips out of sweet potatoes? Yes, I have. And I have a sweet potato fry recipe. I think it's in volume 1. I don't remember if it's volume 1 or 2, but in one of those, I have a sweet potato fry recipe too.
Well, he said the guy said, and Pistols basically said this too, that there's nothing really wrong with the unit. It's that they've legislated it to be so expensive to repair it that it's really not worth repairing it. And he said that they're only legally allowed to recharge it twice in the remaining part of its life because they're not allowed to, I think, make the refrigerant anymore. So.
Little Crafty Nook says when you have neurological issues, it's really is a different language. Some people picture things instead of using words. Yeah, exactly. She is totally right. Roxanne, we use King James and New Living Study in chronological order Bible for the kids. Also Children's Bible in conjunction for the little ones up to reading ages. Yep. Jim says the ESV reads really well. Yes, it does.
I've been using ESV a lot lately. I was using New American Standard for a long time, but it was a little harder. I was using that one for study, but ESV is a little easier.
Yeah. He says he used to be King James only, but realized that's not right. Yeah. My thing on the King James only is you would not go to another country that does not speak English and expect them to learn English to read the Bible. It just doesn't even make sense. It doesn't even make sense at all. And I understand where the King James people are coming from, but now there are plenty of translations that are very good and very close to, or, exact or close to exact of what even the Dead Sea Scrolls and that type of things have said that the Bible said. So it's like,
Well, the Dead Sea Scrolls had not been discovered when King James was written. So there are things in some of the newer translations, they're very subtle. But there are things that they understood about Scripture because of some of the older manuscripts that some of the other the newer translations are using. Still, King James is a good translation. The main thing is there are a lot of good translations, and there's really not that much of a difference between them. The main thing is some translations translate the words literally, and some translations translate what the words mean in the way that they're lined up. So I downloaded a thing the other day that was helpful, but I don't know where at this moment. I'm not sure where it would be, but I've used it in the past in a silly way. In the South, you might say, man, that whatever food was so good it'd make you want to slap your mama. And so if you were making a literal translation, you'd literally say it makes you want to slap your mama. But people in the South know that just means it was amazingly delicious. And so like a word for word translation would use a phrase like that exactly the way it was. And a thought for thought translation would say, well, what they were actually saying is it was amazingly delicious. And so that's the way. So that's the main difference between legitimate Bible translations is some of them, there's a sort of a spectrum, and some of them are a lot more literal and some of them are a lot more thought translation. And neither one is bad, but I would say for just reading and understanding, something that's a little bit more on the thought for thought side is easier to understand. If you're doing a Bible study and you want to know, like, what does this exactly say in the actual words they used, then a more word for word works better for that. Because then you can look at it and realize, well, this one says everyone, and the other one doesn't say that. So that's kind of the difference, I would say. But the thing with King James is it is a good translation, but a lot of people have this picture of what it is to be a true Christian. That's the 1950s Christian. Like, you have to use the King James version. You have to dress a certain way. You can't dance. You can't play cards. You can't swim, boys and girls in the same swimming pool. And all those are not rules.
Long hair, dresses.
Those are not things the Bible says that you have to do. And even though the King James is a good translation, it is a 1611 translation. It is not the original words of Jesus out of his mouth. All translations are translations. The original texts were written in Greek, Hebrew, Greek, and Aramaic. The New Testament texts were mostly Greek. And, I think the New Testament texts were maybe all Greek. So everything that's in English is a translation. And King James is just an older version of English than what most of us understand. So it's a fine translation. It's got some amazing poetic things, and a lot of people like it because when they were younger, they memorized the verses in that way. And some of the verses sound really nice in it, but it's not the only Bible that truly accurately represents the Scripture.
Yep. Bonnie Balance says, my faith as a little child was the hymn, Jesus Loves Me. It still inspires me. Yeah, exactly. It is. And by the way, it was very interesting. So I saw a article today that I didn't click on that talks about at night how there's a brain problem. Yeah, whatever. About how you get night terrors and you just can't go to sleep because you're just so afraid that something evil is happening. That's not a brain problem. You are probably being attacked by demons. And I've actually had it happen to me before, where I was paralyzed in bed because I was under such a deep demonic attack. And I literally, the only thing I could do was just lay there and sing Jesus Loves Me. And I couldn't even do it very loud. It was basically a whisper. But that combated it. So if you see that article going around the internet everywhere about this phenomenon where you lay in bed and all this evil is happening, it has absolutely nothing to do with your brain. It is flat out a demonic attack. And if all you can do is sit there and just hum or sing Jesus Loves Me to yourself, it's better if you can at least say the name of Jesus. Then that's how you fight that kind of stuff. So if anybody needs that out there, just thought I'd throw that out there. Dee Dee, yes, Texas folks are very friendly, but it is so hot and humid. Too much for me personally. Yeah, I agree with you for the most part, the heat. Yeah. Cindy, we are planning on moving to Texas to be near family. Dallas area have arthritis and would like relief. Hopefully the humidity will be similar to the Midwest humidity. That's what I mean. It is
similar to
it is.
Midwest.
So if you're moving there for family, that's fine.
Further south, like Houston, is very, very humid.
Yeah.
Almost, it's not as humid as Florida, but it's coming close.
You can see me the next one. Joe, Denton, Texas, born and raised, 61. Yes, the heat and humidity stinks, but we just deal with it. I wouldn't live anywhere. The barbecue and Mexican food selections are outstanding. Okay, I did like that about Texas.
You totally
the barbecue and the Mexican food. I would travel down there just to eat some of that and come back.
Barbecue, yes. Mexican food. Again, people are really friendly. Lots of amazing lakes and water things, and it's nice being able to not that far from the beach if you're in if you're in Central or South Texas.
Little Crafty says, you preach a Tara. My husband gets so cross with me because I can't stand a bunch of noise. Oh, I hate noise. Oh, we don't happen to have anybody that has a drone with a camera that could just happen to fly over the neighbor's house and see what they're doing.
Yeah, but he went back home after his wife.
Oh, never mind. Okay, Pamela, have you ever been to Arizona? Yes, I spent a summer there when I was a teenager. Vanessa, I have lived in both Texas and Florida's summers are much worse. Yep. I will tell you, though, and Mike agreed with me, after living in Kansas and living in Texas, the humidity in Kansas is worse than Austin. Not Houston, but it's definitely worse than Austin because Kansas is bad. Kansas is awful. And it is definitely worse than Austin. Not Houston, but definitely worse than Austin.
So the thing with Kansas is the humidity seems worse sometimes, but I've noticed that in Austin, it would be 90 degrees in March. And it would be 90 and above all the way till like September. But Kansas is cooler, and then suddenly it's over 100. And I think that sudden change to hot and humid just makes it feel more oppressive in Kansas, or at least in Wichita. So that I did notice. Austin, somebody else mentioned it. Austin was really hot and humid, but I was used to it because I lived there almost all my life pretty much all my life at that point. And I just didn't know a lot different. And on the really, really brutally hot days, I would think, man, it's hot today. But in general, kind of gradually getting into it didn't seem as hot. So
just one moment, guys.
Although, tell you what, after living in like Colorado or Wyoming or something, going somewhere like Texas, the heat really slaps you in the face then. Actually, it's funny because we've gotten so used to the cooler climate now. It's been in the mid to high 80s lately, and it just seems really hot because we're just used to it being cold.
Yeah.
Here.
Little Crafty, you're right. Wichita, yes, but not Southwest Kansas. Southwest Kansas is very hot and dry. Yes, you are very right with that.
All these Texas people are making me hungry.
Oh, man.
Y'all are right. Brisket in Texas, nothing like it in the Midwest. That is so true. Chicken fried steak, absolutely.
Yeah, they must raise their animals different or something. I don't know. Kimberly, I've lived all over the United States from Alaska to Florida. I can tell you Alaska is one of my favorite places. I may live in Wisconsin farm, but I have rooms, completely decorated cabins so that I can go there in my mind. Once you've been to Alaska, never leaves your soul. That is on my bucket before I die list. I would love to go to Alaska. My only thing is I don't want to deal with the mosquitoes. I went to Finland when I was in high school. I was an exchange student to Sweden the year after I graduated. And then we went to Finland, and I loved Finland. Oh, man, that was cool. We were there on midsummer. Oh, my. That would have been 40. Was that? No, 35 years ago.
I was going to say, because you would have been 12.
35 years ago, I was in Finland.
Wow.
Oh, my goodness. Next week. Wow. Or 10 days. Valley Badlands, Tara, I'd bake a couple of brownie pans for the world's record brownie. I guess I'd probably have to bake 100 or 2. But yeah. Just a second, guys. I'm selling stuff on Facebook Marketplace. Please forgive me. Okay.
I do agree, though, as I'm still reading Texas things. Texas does have amazing food. It has amazing food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They do have very good food. Little Crafty Nook, I'm so grateful my second cousin Billy is helping his dad with the farm. Yes, very good. Dude, what part of cash do you... Okay.
Probably a scammer.
Anyway, well, they say they're looking for the house and they can't find it. So I'm like, okay.
They turn off the cooking device.
Do you want to go look out the door and see if they're out there? Maybe I need to go deal with them. Please. Wanda, I should try ground turkey again. Need ideas to doctor it up. I mean, your shepherd's pie. Let's see. Shepherd's pie and what in the world is wrong here? Like your what's it called? Sloppy Joe. And what else? Are they out there?
He says he can come by and look at it really quick, but he'll have to wait till tomorrow because the bank closed and he doesn't have any cash.
Oh, brother.
Wow, that's a very small amount of cash.
Guys, if you don't have $10 on yourself when you're going to buy something.
He says, will that work with you? Okay. Do you want me to say
I did
yes
a thumbs up. So.
Oh, you did that. Oh, okay.
Okay, let's see. Ground turkey. So shepherd's pie, sloppy joes. I'm trying to think. Ground turkey is a hard one. Chili. You could do green chili. It would be good in green chili. I don't know, guys. What are some of your turkey recipes? Because some of them would be, kind of hard. Brianna, try a portable in the bedrooms that don't handle a Windows unit. We showed the closet, but in June and July. Yeah, we'd still have to cut holes in the wall because we have these really weird windows and then just like a doorway thing in our bedroom. So we wouldn't be able to put a window unit in our bedroom. Only Jack's room would be able to have it. So,
but there's some kind of portable roll around thing, but I don't know
how it works. That thing. Yeah, I know. Yeah, Wendy had one of those. Yeah. Can you send me the next one or the last one?
Comments are slowing down. So this after that you can just read them.
All right. Let's see. Right here. There it is. Okay, Jan, nothing wrong with being nosy old neighbor lady. It makes neighbors safe. I know. I'm getting in my old lady nosy stage now.
Well, there's a park near us that says no, not being there after dark, and we didn't really care for a long time, but we're starting to notice,
caring now.
We're starting to see people like, okay, you're not supposed to be doing that. So
and we had an incident this week, and I tell you, this little old lady now, when kids are doing something they're not supposed to be doing, this little old lady is going to be hollering even more. There was a situation where kids could have been killed this week, and it didn't directly involve me, but could have directly involved me. And I'm like, you know what? From now on, I am opening my mouth more so than I even did when it happened. So, or before it happened. So yes, this little lady, I'm just going to use my gray hair, and they just, if they don't like it, they don't like it. Little crafty Nook, our next door neighbor, and we kept getting an eye on each other. We both have cameras. Yep. Deidre, appliance repair, maintenance, replacement programs worth it, like Home Smart or Home Service Plan. So mom was telling me about that today. So mom, she used her home repair thing all the time. It was like $100 a month. She got a new AC and heater out of it, dishwasher fixed, refrigerator, all kinds of stuff. For her, it was totally worth it. So I went and looked today to see. But they have this little fine print that says some air conditioning units, depending on the age, will not be covered. So we could maybe apply for it and see, but we won't know till we pay the $100 if it's going to be covered or not. So
she's not asking for us.
I know. I'm just saying, but she's just saying, is it worth it? So I don't know the situation. I mean,
I would say it's not worth it.
Mom said that it was really worth it, though. Mom said she got $6,500 worth, and it was $100.
We've had them before, and like on a heat and air unit, they spent like $10,000 in parts on like 8 different visits out there, rather than just put a new one in for. Back in those days, it was like $3,000. So they do everything possible to not fix the things completely.
Yeah, when we
do
had
the absolute minimum they can, and the reality is they're trying to make money on you, so they really don't want to pay more than you pay them. Mm-hmm. So I personally don't think I personally will never get a home warranty. But
mom says that it was worth it for her. Now I don't know how many years she had it to cover that $6,000, because you're talking $1,000 a year. So if she had it for more than 6 years, it wouldn't have been worth it for her, but I don't know. So yeah, Dee Dee says the fine print in those contracts is the key. Exactly. Cindy says, what about brisket in Texas? Nothing like the Midwest. Yes, 100%. Their food was delicious. Connie said, I could definitely go carnivore in Texas. I could do carnivore with no problem in Texas. I would eat brisket all the time. I love brisket. Connie, I agree with you. So if anyone wants to ship a brisket to me from Texas or anywhere else in the South, or any kind of barbecue, you go right ahead. What is our P.O. Box? P.O. Box 6837, Sheridan, Wyoming, 82801. My birthday's coming up. I'll have that for my birthday dinner.
You can send brisket to a P.O. Box?
Well, they could put it in coolers, I'm sure.
We should meet Little Crafty Nook for Vid Summit and then have fajitas while we're there, and brisket and barbecue and everything.
Can you buy brisket in Texas and have it shipped to you in Wyoming?
It already filled into Wyoming.
$139.
Well, it probably takes a whole lot to refrigerate.
Good brisket delivery. Good Gold Belly. They have brisket for $79 for 2 pounds. Holy moly. So if you're rich and you want to send me brisket from Texas, holy cow, that's ridiculous. I'll just go down to the store. I love barbecue. I absolutely love barbecue. So, and one drummer says chicken fried steak. Roxanne says go to Alaska May 1st. The tourist attractions are open, but the tourist prices don't kick in until the second week of May. Oh, maybe we should plan our next vacation in May to Alaska. Is it warm enough though? Is it warm enough in Alaska?
Probably.
I don't know if that would be like similar to going to Estes. Roxanne says go to Whittier, Alaska, and take the Glacier Quest Tour, $200 a person. We lived and traveled there for 5 years. You won't see the sights from land or sea. Wow. Very interesting. Let's see. Tanya says she wishes she knew about home repair back in 2019 when she moved there. Yeah. Mom swears she got her money out, but I don't know how many years she paid for it to get that $6,000 worth. But when we had it, it was a total ripoff. It
was a total scam.
So it was just a scam.
And if you think, and generally, my personal opinion, and Dave Ramsey agrees with me, even though Mom doesn't know, Tara doesn't always agree with Dave Ramsey, but is that, the thing with insurance is they're in business to make money. So they have to charge, on average, they have to charge more than they pay out. So you might be the lucky one who ends up getting a bigger payout than you spend. But in general, all those optional insurances are just going to cost you money you're not going to get back. But our personal experience with home warranties was what I described earlier, where they made it as absolutely as difficult as possible. They would never, when the obvious solution would be just replace the unit, they would spend 3 times as much as replacing the unit to fix it in little increments.
Well, Little Crafty says, we went through heck with ours. We are getting a payout of $140 because our people wouldn't do the job that day. It cost us $1,200. Yeah, that's it. They do the very, very bare minimum, and they don't actually fix it. And then you have to keep calling them back out at $100 a pop every 2 or 3 months to fix it. So.
Well, and it's funny because when we were having our problem with that Whirlpool dud of a refrigerator, we already had a warranty that it came with. And while we were trying to get service on it, they were giving us a lot of trouble about getting the service on it. And at the same time, they were pushing us to pay for an extended warranty. Like, but the warranty that we already have on it, you're not really honoring it. So why would I pay for an extended warranty? But I think it's because they're making their money in extended warranties and not so much in appliances. So.
Yep. Okay, this is just stupid.
Crystal says we'll be getting sauces in the mail now. What's stupid?
Oh man, I would love to taste barbecue sauce. Okay, I would love to taste our barbecue sauce from every state in the United States. That would be so cool to see what the difference is in the barbecue sauces all over the United States. Okay, so this is just stupid. Breaking news, new invention. This solar clothes dryer saves you 40% on your electric bill. It is hanging clothes on the clothesline.
I think they're just joking around.
That's just stupid.
I mean, I think they're saying you should hang clothes on the line, but I think that it's a joke.
It costs 25 cents to run the dryer. I actually looked it up. They're still jackhammering. Okay, we're going to go walk over and see what that jackhammering is after the show. Okay? Okay. Mike doesn't want to, so I'm going by myself. Tanya, I have a good repairman, but he also has a full list of jobs, so I am patient. Yeah.
Mike's problem is Mike's been hearing Texas brisket, Texas barbecue.
I see. You're distracted.
Fajitas, and I'm suddenly in chicken fried steak, and my brain is suddenly longing for the homeland. Here's
what we do. We go on the carnivore diet and do a video about it, and then we take it off on our taxes.
We have to go to Texas to test it.
But it'll all be off on our taxes.
Yeah.
So you can go back to the homeland.
Yeah.
Let's see. Cindy says you went to Vermont, but never said a word about the Great Lakes. We really like Maine. It felt like the Great Lakes. Maine's coast is mostly massive granite boulders. So cool. So yes, it was interesting seeing the coast, but I was not really impressed with Maine. Sorry.
Well, what was the city? Portland. So it was beautiful when we drove up the coast.
Countryside was pretty.
When we drove up the coast, it was amazing. But the city of Portland just really kind of ruined the experience for us because the city was just such a dump. But the ocean was spectacular. We went up, I forgot where we went, but we drove up the coast a ways, and then we drove out on this little peninsula where it turns out there was like a little summer home location where people had summer homes on the beach. It was spectacular. That was really, really nice.
Yeah. People were rude though.
They
were pretty.
And you said it felt a lot like the Great Lakes. Yeah, I mean, it kind of did when we were out there, because we've been on the North Shore of Lake Superior. That was beautiful. That was really nice. Up in Minnesota. Yeah. That was really nice.
Lori says Grandma's barbecue sauce is still the best in Dining on a Dime cookbook. I'm telling you, my grandma's barbecue sauce is super delicious. I would say it's the number one that I've ever had. I need to make it more often. I don't make it more often, and I need to. We did love New Hampshire, though. New Hampshire, I would say, was our favorite.
And we didn't really know anything about New Hampshire, but it was really nice. We really liked it a lot.
Yeah, if I go back to the Northeast, that's where I'm going to go next time. So
if we went back to Maine, well, I don't know if Tara would want to go back to Maine, but if we went back to Maine, I think I would go further north, like Bar Harbor or somewhere. I've heard it's really nice up there. But I was thinking,
I thought we drove by there.
No, Bar Harbor was hours north of where we are, the northernmost place we went. But you can look it up and see.
Okay, I'm gonna look.
You do look it up. I think it's because our flight was out of Portland that we ended up staying in Portland. But
I see.
Who was right?
You were right.
Tell me again.
You were right.
Say it again.
You were right.
All right.
But where did we go here? Where was this?
Way south of there. Wait, where is that?
Well, that's not even Maine. Hold on.
Is Bar Harbor not the right place?
Wait, I may have to take back my. Well, I typed in Maine.
Okay, looking it up.
Maps. Okay, you guys settled the argument for Mike and Tara. Maine.
I was thinking.
Okay, so there's Maine.
Yeah, it's up there by Acadia. See, look.
Well, where was it we went when we were out on the ocean?
Oh, like somewhere up in this area. We drove up the coast and we were up in this area somewhere, but Bar Harbor is way up there. I forgot the town we drove into.
Where was that town?
I could look on my pictures and there's a stamp that would say where we were at the time.
Northport? Was it Northport?
It was nowhere near Bar Harbor, but it was somewhere heading up the coast that way.
Well, anyway, it's not gonna matter because we're probably not gonna go Maine. But
I would be interested in going to some of the further up the coast places. But yeah,
it would be fun to go see Canada and all that. Although we found out last Monday that Banff is probably a better place to go in Canada, so we'll probably do that.
Well, it was fun when we were in Vermont. We did go. We liked kind of north when we got out of the places that we thought we were going to want to be in. Further north was nicer, well, at least we thought so. And we actually went all the way up to we realized at one point we're like 10 miles from the border, so we went ahead and went right up to the border. And there was a little town there, and the border went right through the middle of it. It was pretty cool.
Says those states are so small I can't relate at all. Yeah, I couldn't relate to being in Vermont, on the west side of Vermont 1 minute, and then on the east side of New Hampshire like 3 hours later or something. I mean, I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was ridiculously fast on some of those. And I was like, wow, you just go really quick. And it never even occurred to me that, that it would be that quick. But anyway.
Dee Dee says Cape Elizabeth, or she thinks we were at Cape Elizabeth. Is Cape Elizabeth? It sounds familiar, but I wasn't sure if there was one place that was outside of Portland that was a big park. That was nice.
PD says Burlington, Vermont is a pit. Oh my goodness, you're not kidding me. I was so disappointed in Vermont. I was so disappointed.
Oh, I think
New Hampshire made up for it though.
I'm pretty sure it was Cape Elizabeth. Here, let me look. Booth Bay. Is that right? East Booth Bay, it says.
Booth Bay.
That was where we went out on the beach. Well, it wasn't a beach necessarily. It was kind of a rocky cove with little towns and stuff. That was really nice there. That was one place we went. But I think we went through Cape Elizabeth or to it or around it or something like that. I was just looking at the one picture. If I take pictures in the area, then I can see, my phone will identify where that was. So I'm trying to think of where else. I don't have any other pictures in that area. So, but yep. Fort William Park was the park that was nice down right next to Portland. That park was really cool. It was fun being there. We got to see giant cruise ships. We were just standing there near the beachy area, and then this huge cruise ship
going by. You don't see that in Wyoming or Kansas or Colorado. It was really weird. We were just standing right there, and there's all of a sudden cruise ship, another cruise ship. They were all from Norway too.
Yeah.
I didn't even know Norway had cruise ships. So anyway, Diane Dime Cookbooks, guys, 25% off right now. In the description below is where you can get the link. livingonadime.com is where you can get all of these recipes and lots of tips on saving money. Please visit us at livingonadime.com. We'll see you guys next time.